हाँ जी सज्जनों दोस्तों जिद्दा थानू पता आज हैगा थर्सडे दा शो ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਏ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਟੁਡੇ ਸ਼ੋ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਵੀ ਬੋਲਣੀ ਆ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵੀ ਬੋਲਣੀ ਆ ਸੋ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਸੋਤੇ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਆ so today welcome to the show and we've got ourselves a special guest today and the guest as you know we normally talk about property and anything that we talk about property we have it we can say it's always got something to do with it. So today's topic, before I go into that, I'm going to do an introduction first of all. We've got here the very beautiful Sensei.
Hello.
How are you and welcome?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you
You
for having
well?
me. Yes, thank you. I am.
Yeah, good. So how do you feel? Have you been on TV before or?
No, this is the first time I've been on TV, but I feel quite calm, very relaxed. Everything's going really well, so.
Amazing.
No
So we will absolutely, in Punjabi, there's a word we use, tamak. Tamak means we're going to smash it.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So we've got, आज जेरा topic हैगा, असी गल करनी हैगी counselling बारे. Counselling की चीज़ हैगी या, किस वास्ते असी use करते हैगी या, and we're going to answer all these other questions after that as well. नाल शायद तुसी थल्ले देख सकदे या, you can maybe able to see the phone number or the lines will open the second because किसी ने phone करना होवे किसी question पूछना होवे कि जरे में नाल बैठे आ ये है qualified counselor आ पर नाल इन्हें मैं question पूछूंगा तुसी भी कोई question सवाल पूछना होवे तुसी भी पूछ सकते हैं and so today we've got beautiful Sensei with us and today's topic is going to be on counselling, introduction on counselling. The main thing I want to start from because I've always been very, very interested on what counselling is, right? So, just the topic I choose what is counselling? So, if you could explain.
Sure, of course I can.
That is.
So, counselling is a professional relationship you have with a client, and in this relationship what we aim to do is help the client to understand why they may be suffering from feelings of distress, mental health conditions, anxiety, and ultimately the aim is to work together so you can have a better and more fulfilling lifestyle than you already have.
So जिद्दां ने समझाया हैगा जिहड़ा काउंसलिंग हैगा या जिहड़ी स्पेशलिज्म हुंदी है counselling जिन्ना भी हैगा it's a lot to do with it's a mixture so I'm guessing with counselling you can do it in mostly everything and everything really then in all sides of topics, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So from mental health, what other sort of topics would you say you can use this for marriage?
Yeah, so you can have marriage counselling for relationships. You can go into counselling if you're suffering with any form of mental health, depression, anxiety, stress. Then we can look at children counselling as well to see if their brain's developing well. But counselling is not just for when you're having bad times, it can also be when you're having good times. So if you're going through a large transition, so if you're moving to another city, or you're buying a property, or a couple properties, or you're buying land, or you're just going into a new career, sometimes it's good to have counselling to make sure that your mindset is in the right place to help you move forward, to keep you focused and keep you on track. So it's not just for depression, it can be for good times too. So,
जिद्दां ये समझा दे हैगे अस जिन्ने भी साडी स्रोतियां हैगियां साडी बीबियां हैगियां प्यारियां प्यारियां सुन रहियां ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਇਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਗੁੱਡ ਟਾਈਮ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਵਰਤ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੈਡ ਟਾਈਮ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਵਰਤ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਸੋ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਹਰੇਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਪਤਾ ਜਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਘਰ ਵੀ ਵੇਚੀਦੇ ਆ before even some people I've even known some people when they've even gone into buying houses or when they're getting even sort of mortgages and whatnot, sometimes they get anxieties, they get panic attacks, right? Because it's such a big step that they're taking. Really, getting hundreds of thousands of pounds of loans and whatnot. So, because qualified counselor hunde ya, mostly a lot of things which they can guide you. एक थोड़ा friend बन के, forgetting your friends out there, forgetting whatnot out there, they can guide you what's better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you think? That's
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned something about friends.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's better to have a counsellor than to go to a family member or a friend, only because you know the information you're going to get from a counsellor is non-biased. I've got nothing to gain from whether you choose this path or that path.
Yes.
But sometimes when you've got friends and family involved in your life, they might have something to gain if you go down a certain path. So the advice you get from a counsellor is always non-biased, and it's always for your best interest.
Okay, so to recap what you just said there, so if you had to say who this, once again, so people understand, who would you say it is for clearly? What? So it's for the good times?
It's for the good times.
It's for the bad times as well as
times, yes.
Right? What else sort of could you use it for, you reckon?
So it's for anyone who's suffering with any form of mental health condition, so anxiety, depression, stress, OCD, you name it, counselling can help you. It's for any relationship, so any relationship, marital relationship, friendships, friends and family. It's also for grief and loss as well. So a lot of people go through grieving, losing a loved one. But grief isn't always about someone passing away. Sometimes it's about grieving about your past life, grieving what you may have had, because you can lose many things, not just family members. You can lose pets, you can lose property, you can lose a lot sometimes, and you will feel grief while you're going through that. It's for any kind of life transition. So like I mentioned before, if you're going from one city to a new city, or from one job to a new job, a lot of feelings can come up with that, so you can get counselling for that. It's also beneficial if you have low self-esteem, low self-worth, you know, depression. So that can be really good for building up your confidence, depending on where you want to go in life and what you want to do. It's always good to have confidence, isn't it?
Because generally, when you think about the word counselling, obviously I'm not a qualified counsellor or anything like that, but obviously we sell a lot of properties.
Yes.
We deal with people all the time, especially with split up cases that people are going through divorce cases. And they're looking divorce through this separation ja rahe ya. कई तो इन्ने दिनों नु ला लेंदे हैं मैंने इधर भी मैंने पता है कि यार जिन्होंने दिनों ला के where they're really wanting to they're wanting to take their own life at risk, they want to do suicide and things like that, right? Because they have they're going through a split up, or they're going through a split up, right? Because these are the main sort of things you look at, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the whole broad ideas that you've just explained, right? It's just like, wow. So you've got really counselling can be used in anything and anything. So जिन्ने भी है counselling है, especially ਜਿਹੜੀ society ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, because ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਕਈ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਚ ਦੇਖੋ, you look at people in Asian countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or really anywhere in the country, they go through so much split ups where they will even try to take their life, suicide. Because you hear it all the time.
Yeah, you do.
You know, we deal with so many split up cases where they've spent so much money on weddings and whatnot, right? And all of a sudden, after a year, they're going through this. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just for that. It's really for... So what kind of things would you say... Like, obviously, we talked about who is it for. Who is it not for then?
So it wouldn't be beneficial for anyone who's going through an extreme crisis. And an extreme crisis is anything like self-harming or harming others. So, and the reason why it wouldn't be good if you're going through an extreme crisis is because normally when that's happening, you need immediate intervention. It's not something that can wait. Counselling is a process. So if you come to have counselling with me, you might be with me from 6 months to a year or longer, and that's a process. When you're going through an extreme crisis, you need help there and then. So that needs immediate intervention, and that's when people normally get sectioned or been put on medication. And then after they've gone through that crisis, then they can go and have counselling.
With counselling then, because obviously you said it's... So what would you say, is there sort of a minimum term? Is there like, with the minimum term, would you say... if somebody asks a question and they say, okay, how long would the process take, approximately, right? Would you say it's a broad opener? Or could you sort of tell them within the first week or 2 weeks or 3? How many sessions could you say, okay, this was going to take you at least 6 months to go through this procedure?
I think with most situations, I say the minimum would be 6 months because it roughly takes, scientific research shows that it takes about 28 days for a change of behaviour.
Wow.
But there also needs to be a change of pattern. So while we're going through the change of behaviour, I need to make sure that you're consistent with this new way of thinking because you can relapse. Anyone can relapse at any point. So 6 months with me will kind of make me confident that you're in a place where if you was to end counselling at this point, you have a really good foundation. However, my average is from 6 months to a year. Most people stay in counselling with me, and that's from the basics of anxiety and depression.
And how long have you been doing this for?
So I've been doing this for 4 years now.
Wow.
Yes, and I absolutely love it.
So Jiria Sadi Sensi Walters is, when I first met her, I thought she was incredible. Incredible is not even just a word. I thought her personality shines. Just dekhe sakdi hain how much she shines, right? And I just generally think in this sort of thing, in this category, well, you need to find somebody that you can trust.
Yes.
Who can hold your hand through this.
Yes.
Because one little mistake, you know, it can take you down the wrong path, right?
Yes.
What do you have to say about that? Do you think if something, have you been through, you must have other people come from other counsellors where it's not worked with them, then it's come on you, right?
Yeah, I have. I've had many people say, you know, counselling's not for me. So different counsellors are trained in different methods. My method is CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And in a nutshell, that means I look at how your brain works and how you communicate. And then I mirror that back to you. And normally when I mirror it back to you, you say, hey, that don't make sense. I don't really like that, or I don't like that way of thinking. And then we'll start to teach you a new way of thinking that's going to benefit you.
Wow, okay. Dekh lo ji. And how long did you study this for?
So to be a accredited counsellor,
right,
you need to have a minimum of a level 4. And to each level is a year. So you start from level 1 and you go up to level 4. So it's taking me 4 years to become a accredited counsellor.
Wow. Okay. Want to see call lane? Hanji, let's take a call now.
Okay.
Hello.
Shodhi Saab, good evening.
Hanji, Sasir ji.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
And Maharaj, your show I think welcome you back again.
Oh, thank you.
Sometime last year.
Huh.
And I would like to know, are you talking about the property value in this country, or talking to in India, or talking all over the world? And if you are talking about in the UK, then are you a mortgage advisor, or you are a mortgage arranger, or you are a broker, or you are a property developer, or you are a property? Do you got a FCA number yourself? I would like to know, because I know I just heard your language with the lady sitting with you. I don't know what's her name. And I would like to know, are you agent, or you are a estate agent, or you are a letting agent, or you are a property developer, or you are a mortgage broker, please.
Okay. So, thank you for the call. Jere asi eh call le rahe hain, aaj da jira topic a, eh main thoda next week show de vich thoda I answer karunga, because aaj jira sada guest aaya ya, aaj da jira topic hega ya, is on counselling, because she's not going to be with us every week. I'm going to be here every week, and I'll be doing 2 shows a week as well. But this topic today is going to be on counselling. So next week, but this week, if we can keep the questions just dedicated to counselling today, because she's taken her time off today to come to this show. And I'm so grateful for this, because I know how many people are struggling to going through what they do.
Yeah.
And you know, especially going through buying houses, you can tell. You know when somebody's buying a house.
Can I speak to you now?
Right? Hello, Hanji.
Can I speak to him? Sorry?
Hanji.
Maharaj, I just have a simple question for you, Punjabi.
Hanji, so मैं हगा स्टेडियम सी असी डेवलपमेंट भी करी दियां, पर जरा आज दा भाजी जरा टॉपिक है ना, असी मैं थानू फिर प्यार दे नाल समझा रहे हैं, प्लीज समझने ट्राई करो.
क्योंकि it's a complicated question, complicated ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸ਼ੋ ਹੈ, very complicated for the normal people.
हाँ, कितना complicated है जी?
ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਜਸਟ ਲਿਸਨ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗਾ ਵਾ ਜਸਟ ਕਮ ਇਨ ਮਾਈ ਹੋਮ ਦੈਨ
ਤੇ ਚਲੋ ਇੱਕ ਚਲੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੰਪਲੀਟ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਲੱਗੀ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦਾ ਸੋ ਫਾਰ
मेरे माम वो आज जो मोगज एडवाइजर और जो मोगज ब्रोकर और जो आर डेवलपर
जिदा मैं ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਵੀਕ
ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੰਬਰ ਦਾ ਫੋਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣਾ
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ with this show thank you for your call ਭਾਜੀ thank you for that ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਮੈਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਮੈਂ 2 ਸ਼ੋਅ ਲਿਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ where we're going to have a property talk show every single week ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਲੇਟੈਸਟ ਟੌਪਿਕਸ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁਣ ਕਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹਰੇਕ ਵੀਕ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਯੂ ਵਾਚ ਮੀ ਐਵਰੀ ਸਿੰਗਲ ਵੀਕ ਯੂ ਕਮ ਬੈਕ ਮੇਰਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਟੇਡੀਅੰਸੀ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਸਟੇਡੀਅੰਸੀ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਪਰ ਸਟੇਡੀਅੰਸੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ we bring on topics like this because these topics are extremely important because this is not just a property talk show. This is about mental health. And you know, in the communities of mental health, people are suffering with mental health. So, in this format, if you think if one person is not able to understand what this show is, I can guarantee you there's a lot of people that can understand this show and that will thank somebody like Sensi to come in. So, you know, we get some colleagues like that who don't understand.
That's okay.
But today, so obviously we've been talking about counselling and whatnot.
Yes.
Are you able to give some sort of examples of where, you know, counselling has been harder for some sort of situations? Like, what would you say is there a difficult topic to give counselling on, or would you say they're more or less all the same?
That's a good question.
Because
I think the most challenging, challenging when it comes to counselling, I would say is definitely marriage counselling. Marriage counselling is very complex because it's not one person, it's 2 people, and they're trying to move as a union. And when you take 2 very strong personalities, sometimes moving as a union has its conflicts. So marriage counselling, I would say, is the most challenging just because there's so much feelings and emotions and people involved. When it's one-to-one, it's only about you.
Yes.
But when it's marriage counselling, it's about you and your partner.
Wow, okay.
So it's a bit more complex.
So, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਇਹਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਮੈਰਿਜ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ marriage counselor, that's just one topic of it.
That's
topic. Only just one topic of it.
Yes.
So would you say if some people are a bit who have got anxiety, when ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ anxiety ਮਤਲਬ what's another word for anxiety? What people may be able to understand? Sometimes they get anxious.
Yes, worry.
They get worried. ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ mortgage ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ? How are we going to pay our mortgage? Where are we going to get the deposit for the house?
Yes.
I've seen things happen like this. This is one of the reasons I have obviously brought you onto the show. So if you can give some sort of, are you able to give some sort of advice to our you know, the watchers out there that, you know, is it best to maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 sort of counselling sort of, you know, series with you guys, or maybe a couple of months before they even going to buy a house? Because even they may not even be ready to buy a house.
Yeah, I definitely say
they may think they're ready to buy a house.
Yeah,
but they may not be ready to buy a house.
True.
So how could you help them with that then?
Well, I say with all things, prevention is better than cure. So even in marriage counselling, and I would give the same advice when buying a house, sometimes it's best to have some therapy to see where your mind actually is. And what therapy allows you to do, the therapist can ask you questions that you probably never thought of before. So if you're buying a house, why are you buying this house? What does it mean to you emotionally to buy this house? Is there emotional attachment? Is it for a legacy? Are you trying to build generational wealth? Because the reason you're buying the house is going to have different emotional holds on you.
Wow,
if you're buying it for, I just want to rent it out, then you're not going to be so emotionally attached. But if you're buying it to leave it for your children, then it has a different value. So there's the financial value, but then there's the emotional value that
because you know, Sensi, we also, I get answered this. Maybe as a counsellor, you'll be able to help. Especially जब अपने community ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ property ਅਸੀਂ ਕਮਾਈ ਹੋਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਸਾਡੀ property look after ਕਰੂਗੇ and what I'm trying to say to you is so in a lot of communities a lot of people, their mum and dad might have had made 300 properties or 50 properties or 10 properties, but the kids, the kids don't want the headache of looking after these properties.
Yeah.
Because I know as a landlord how much headache there is to look after a property. Oh, believe me, right?
Yes.
And when we are managing other people's properties as well as, we know what we go through, right? So, because this topic alone is, I would say to you, it's one of those things where, wow, it's just, I've got all sorts of things going in my mind right now. I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy, man. Like the kind of counseling that somebody could need on this basis could potentially, you may not even be ready to buy a house. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਅਜੇ ਤਿਆਰ ਵੀ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ ਹੁਣ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਆਂ ਲਈਆਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਣਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਬਣਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਬਣਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ your kids don't want to look after those properties right then you could then I'm guessing they could come to somebody like yourself who's a qualified counsellor.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, and you could obviously guide them, right?
Yeah.
On that sort of way, because I see this all the time.
Yeah.
I do radio shows, I'm on the TV channels. I see this all the time. People say to me, my kids don't want to look after my properties. I've got these 30 properties, but my kids don't want to look after them. Because when the tenants are ringing them at 11 o'clock in the evening, to saying, oh, this is wrong, or something's gone wrong, or my boiler stopped working. You know, sometimes it builds up on you.
Yeah.
And it can stress you out.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
But you know what I'd say to that?
Yes.
I would say if a client came and said, hey, I'm stressed out, my children don't want to take on properties, then I would suggest family counselling for that. Because you may be hearing the information of my children don't want to take on the properties, but you need to hear the reasons why the children don't want to take on the properties. And you have to understand that the children may also have misinformation about what it means to take on a property, and they may not also be aware about what support is out there for them managing the properties. So when you get a full table of information about what it actually means to take on something, then you can make an informed choice. And I think sometimes children, when they're being given something, because they don't know the value of it or the quality of it or what it takes, are not making choices based off informed information.
So tell me this, right? There could be one child that wants to manage the properties.
Yes.
Then there's another child, there's two children altogether.
Yeah.
There's one child that wants to he wants the headache, he'll look after it. There's another child that doesn't want the headache, that doesn't want to look after it, but obviously he will want a share of that property.
Okay. But
then the son that wants to, or the daughter that wants to look after that properties, he'll say, okay, I want more share out of that.
Of
because
course.
I have been looking after that.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that sort of scenario? Because how could you help them in that sort of way where you've got the parents sitting in front of you, you've got the two kids, I'm making you think here by the way.
Yes, okay.
So,
because
this happens all the time.
Yeah.
Especially in Indian communities, Asian communities, especially, I get this all the time. You know, I've got 20 properties, but my one son wants to do it and the other son doesn't want to do it.
Well, it's quite clear to me you have to set some boundaries and a clear foundation. Yeah. So if the son who is looking after the property is doing all the work, all the grafting, taking all the headache, then he has to set a boundary with the sibling that doesn't want to take on the property. And the parents have to support the child that is taking on the property with the boundary that they're setting. So if the child who is taking care of the property says, hey, I'm going to take more of a percentage, the parents need to support that child in that because the other child is actively not taking care of the properties, even though it might be some of his inheritance. So he have to take a shorter cut while the parents are alive and while he's taking care of the properties.
That's another subject, inheritance tax. I'll be doing a show on inheritance tax. Look, initial, you won't believe it. On this channel, this channel, they're like family to me, right? And I'm going to be doing 2 shows hopefully on this channel now. One as property talk show, and the other one is getting professional buddies like you to come on shows like here and try to help the communities, not just one community, but actually helping all the communities.
Yes.
I think ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੱਲੇ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਵੱਲ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਪਰ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਇਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਤੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਆਸਕ ਮੀ any other questions any time ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਉਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ I am an estate agent, we are property developers, we are landlords. This is my profession, but I will see you after the break and make sure you have your cup of tea ready. I'll catch you soon. Hanji, mere sajjano dosta. Look at the smile I got on my face today, guys. I am, wow, all these questions Sensi has asked. It's like, she's woken me up. I'm sure she's woken you up. Because when you normally talk about counseling, especially when somebody like me, that only deals with property and only property, and you think to yourself, how could this change people's lives? And I've got so many other questions to ask you. So when you're choosing your counsellor, how do you know that counsellor is the right one for you then? Do you go through a strategic check with a strategic check? I'll never say that word. But do you, I'm a desi at the end of the day, right? So how do you go through that checkup to know that counsellor? Or would you say they should always... It's like when somebody's selling a property, yeah?
Yes.
Me as a property professional, I will always say you must go and get 3 evaluations done. Then see who gives you the best evaluation of what their services are and what they offer you, right? Do you think it's the sort of same thing with a counsellor? Do you think it's only always going to best and check, maybe go to 2 or 3 counsellors, then choose the best way? How do you choose what's the best counsellor for you?
That's a very good question. I think the main thing when selecting a counsellor is that you definitely want to make sure that you're dealing with an accredited counsellor. So there's certain bodies that counsellors belong to, and you can check when you're connecting or reaching out to a counsellor, you can ask them who they're accredited with and they can tell you who they're accredited with. Most counsellors will be happy to share that information with you. Yeah? Okay. Then the second thing I would say is that when you meet someone, it's like with every relationship you go into, you will get a vibe, you will get a feeling, you'll get a connection. If you call one counsellor and you have a session, even if you've had 6, 7 sessions and you think, I don't really like the way this relationship's going, or it doesn't feel right.
Because you're having a relationship, right?
It is a relationship.
It's a relationship.
Absolutely.
So, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ, you know, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਆ, ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਚੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ? How do you know ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਆ is the right one for you? Is that perfect counselor? Because not only, like the first question we asked about counseling, right? You've got to open your heart up. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਦਿਲ ਖੋਲ ਕੇ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ. That's right? You've got to open your heart up.
Yes.
And you've got to be 100, no, I would forget 100%. That's easy for these guys. But let's say 200%, yeah. Right? So you've got to be 200%, right?
Yeah.
Open with you. Is that right?
Yeah. Because there's no point coming into counselling if you're going to lie. Because lying is not going to solve your problems. You're going to have to be honest with yourself when you come into counselling, and you're also going to have to be honest with me. But the beautiful thing is about counselling is that when you're honest, there's no backlash for being honest. There's no repercussions for being honest. It's just pure and utter support. So if you say, you know, I'm really bad at this, I get really angry, I have anger issues, I'm not going to judge you for having anger issues. That's why you're here. So we're going to work through those things.
And this is very, very important, right? Because experience, to become a qualified, you know, a counsellor, if you don't have the experience, like you've been doing it for how long?
4 years.
So, 4 saal lehe kaam kar rahi hum. Then you were studying 4 years prior to that?
Yes.
फिर ने 4 साल स्टडी पहला की थी तो हम जेरे मेरे वांगू आ डंडे खा के ਪੁੱਤ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੀ ਪੈਣਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਇਹ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ 'ਚ ਆਉਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਬੇਸ਼ੱਕ ਮੈਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਨਾ ਬਣਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਪਰ ਲੈ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਖਰਾਬ ਹੋਇਆ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁੰਡਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਹੁਣ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਤੋਂ ਹੀ ਜਦ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਆ ਮੇਰੇ ਮੰਮੀ ਡੈਡੀ ਹੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸਗੇ ਫੋਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਹੱਥ 'ਚ ਫੜਾਤਾ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਲੈ ਹੁਣ ਤੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਆਨਸਰ ਕਰੀ ਆ ਇਹ ਰਿਐਲਿਟੀ ਆ ਮੇਰੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਦੇਖੋਗੇ a lot of people ask me how long have I been in the property business for and I have said literally since the day I have been born. I used to go and show houses at the age of 9 and 10.
Yeah.
I did valuations from the age of 14 and 15. I used to go out.
Yeah.
So this is all I've ever known is property.
Yeah.
Right? And with yourself, with accreditation side of things, I mean, it's such a broad subject. You know, normally you think, again, I'm coming back to the same thing. Normally you think that counseling is just for one topic or maybe two topics, but it's actually not. You can have a counseling. So when you're buying a house, again, we're coming back to property now. When you're buying a house, jab tak property le rahe hain, and you're a bit anxious, and you think, is this the right thing I'm doing? You could possibly come and see somebody like herself, that she could guide you, that she may be even be able to tell you that, is this the right time for you to even buy a property? I'm guessing you could probably help them with that as well.
Absolutely.
And you can maybe suss them out.
Yeah.
Right? That's the main thing. Because a lot of people, when they're buying properties, they feel so anxious. It's like, you should be happy when you're buying a house, right? Why are you not happy buying a house? Then it's like, oh, because my mum and dad are pushing me to buy a house, which is, in a way, it's good because they're putting you on the right line. But then at the same time, it's not really good either, because if your heart is not going to be in it, then why are you doing it as well, right?
Good question. Yeah.
So how would you answer that then? If somebody said something like, look, if somebody came up to you and said, look, I want to buy this property, like I'm buying this because of my parents, and this probably happens in a lot of communities, how would you answer that?
Well, it's not really my job to answer it.
Yeah.
But what I would ask them if they was in a session with me and they said, look, I'm buying a house. I don't really want to buy a house. My parents want me to buy a house. I would ask them, okay, so what are the pros and cons of buying this house? Is buying this house going to put you out of pocket? Is it going to put you in debt? If no, if you buy the house for your parents, does it really matter? Is it a big deal to you or is it not? If you're buying the house and it's putting you in debt and you can't afford it, then that's a whole different scenario, isn't it? So there's so many questions that can be asked around this topic to the individual. It's very bespoke to the person. Why do you feel the pressure to buy this house for your parents? Have they never had a house? Do they need a house? Do they have anywhere to live? There's like a million questions I could ask that person.
Absolutely.
To help them get to an understanding about what it is they're doing and why they're doing it.
That's the understanding. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਆਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ ਜਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ property ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ? Are you buying a property because a lot of people I speak to, they are more than happy to live in a rental property. And a lot of people I speak to, they are more than happy to live in the rental properties. But a lot of the communities, they will say to you, no, you have to go and buy a property. Here's £15,000, here's £20,000 deposit. Go and buy a property. So you know how it's like to have a mortgage, how it's like to have finance.
Yeah, it's good life skills, isn't it?
It's a life skill.
Yeah.
In my way, I think that's a very good thing. Right? फिर ताहिर कहते हैं ना औले खाते हो बादाम खाते हो काम तो आ ही गए फिर थोड़ी मोटे sorry I skipped the third one डंडे खाते हो वो भी काम तो आ ही गए. So what I was trying to say is that having, you know, like almonds, nuts, they're good for you, right? They're good for your brain.
Yeah.
They make your brain strong.
They do.
Right? And it's a saying in Punjabi that if you eat, you know, nuts and all these types of different varieties of nuts and whatnot, they're supposed to make you, if you eat 10 nuts, like my dad says to me, if you eat 10 nuts, you put them in water a night before, and you eat them. You peel them off, and you have it, or you put it into your whatever you want to eat. You should have 10 a day because it keeps your brain going.
Okay.
Right.
Good advice.
So it comes there. So this, the counselling side of things. Does it have to be on a one-to-one basis, generally on a general topic, or can you do group sessions in this?
Yeah, so you can do group sessions, you can do one-to-ones, and you can do family as
well.
Do
you mostly do one-to-one then?
I do one-to-one, family counselling, and group sessions. So all three I'm capable of doing.
Wow.
And the benefits of doing a group session is that normally the group has gone through life experiences. So they've overcome certain challenges in life already. And it gives you, when you're in the group, it gives you the perspective of, okay, there's a qualified counsellor in the room to keep things under the control, but there's a normal person who's just like me sitting in this room who has also overcome, and this normal person, I say normal,
me, that's that normal person,
is telling me their success story about how they overcame, because sometimes I'm qualified to overcome in a way. So you might look at me and say, well, of course you can do it, you're a therapist, you know how to do it, you've done so much mind work. But when you hear that another person who's just like you has also overcame it, and they're also giving you advice about how they did it, it kind of hits home a bit stronger. So group therapy is really good for connecting with other people who are just like you, who are going through what you're going through, and who have also overcame it. And you can give each other advice on different topics, which is really nice for some people.
Wow. I have no idea what to say to that now. I think that is, and I think she'll be coming on at least once a month, giving updates, what's happening. Hopefully, with whoever you're counselling, with their authorities, you'll be able to give some live examples.
Yes.
Are you able to give me some examples of the way you've been able to help somebody?
I could give you many.
Let's hear them. If you can.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with the easiest one is self-esteem and confidence.
Okay.
And there was a young lady, and it's similar to a lot of things we talk about, and she wanted to date for marriage, but she didn't really know how to. She felt like everyone she was coming in contact with wasn't really a serious person.
Okay.
So
this is for relationship.
So this was about her building her confidence.
Confidence.
Her confidence, her self-esteem and self-worth. Yeah. Because a lot of, even though I do relationship counselling, a lot of things in life is more about your confidence. So you won't go for that job because you're not confident. And that means you have a low self-esteem image of yourself because you don't think you're smart enough yet to become the manager, so you're not even going to apply to try and be the manager. Same with property. You might not think, oh, I'm not someone who's going to own property one day, I'm just going to rent. But in your heart, you might want to own property, and that's to do with your confidence and your self-esteem. Yeah?
Absolutely.
So this young lady I was working with decided that she wanted more in life. So it weren't just about relationships, but the biggest move she made was in relationships, okay? Yeah. So when she decided that she wanted to have a certain future, we had to look at her confidence and her self-esteem and how she was presenting herself into the world. So when we was looking at her confidence, it was like, how do you view yourself as a person?
Okay.
So you're saying you want to be someone's wife, but do you view yourself as a wife? Do you treat yourself like you're somebody's wife already?
Okay.
A lot of the answers to that were no. Yeah. So then we did something called a self-care plan because we established that she wasn't actually taking care of herself.
Okay.
And with all relationships, you teach people how to treat you. Yeah? So I always use the example of if you go into one house, and this is quite common in black and Asian and brown families, yeah? If you go into one house, you take off your shoes, yeah? You don't go into...
I do that all day long. All day long.
So when you go into someone's house, so let's say you came to my house, you see me take off my shoes, whether it's your way or not, you've established, hey, Sensei's walked into her house and Sensei's took off her shoes. I'm going to take off my shoes out of respect because Sensei is teaching me the rules of her house. And in Sensei's house, we take off our shoes.
Shoes, yes.
Then you can go to someone else's house and they don't take off their shoes. They walk into their living room, they put their feet on their coffee table with their shoes on. So then you're thinking, well, they're not taking off their shoes, I'm not going to take off my shoes. They ain't got carpet, it's grubby. Okay, so this is how they treat their home. So naturally, now if we take the situation of the home and we apply it to ourselves, if you view me, oh, Sensi doesn't take care of herself, she doesn't talk to herself nicely, she doesn't have high standards to herself, then why are you, as a stranger, going to approach me and treat me with respect if I can't treat myself with respect? So we went through a lot of deep work with that young lady to teach her how to respect herself, to teach her how to love herself, and then to teach her what her values were. And she didn't understand what her values were. So then what we did, I said to her, if I wanted to be your friend, what is the minimum requirements of me having access to you?
Okay.
So if you apply for a job, I want to apply for a job, and the job is a heart surgeon. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the right name. Open heart surgery. My CV needs to say I have qualifications in open heart surgery, right?
Of course, right.
Or you're going to die.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So if I'm going to apply for that job, they're going to look at my resume and say, okay, she's a surgeon.
Yeah.
And if I apply for that job and they look at my resume and it says she's not a surgeon, I'm not going to get the job.
Yeah.
So how are you teaching people, when people are coming to you wanting to have access to you, your mind, your body, your soul, your personality, what qualifications do they need to have to get access to you? And she's never really sat and thought about it like that. She's like, oh, I'm just friendly, I give everyone access to me, but that can be very dangerous. Some people see it as you're arrogant, you're selfish, you're too confident. But if you don't have standards to what people you let have access to you, you will just get robbed. Thieves will always rob a house that's full of jewels.
Absolutely.
So if you're a person who you think is of quality and you love yourself, then you need to understand who you're letting have access to you and how that changes your life and how it changes the quality of your life. So if you have access to me and I'm allowing you to have access to me, that means my friends need to have maybe some ambition. I want friends that respect their parents. I want friends that have some focus and some drive in life. I might want friends who probably don't drink or smoke because these are things I don't do. So if you have those minimum requirements, then you get to have access to Sensi. If you don't meet my minimum requirements, doesn't mean I'm going to be mean to you or rude to you, you just don't have access to me.
Okay.
So we went through all that. So that's the kind of work we go through in therapy, so you can understand who you are, what your values are, what your boundaries are, and then what you're looking for in other people. And that's just one example. That can apply to so many other things as well.
Absolutely.
So it's quite complex.
Complex, yes. Wow. Jesus. Where do I start from? But oh God,
you got to translate that now.
Jesus, nah, I'm not translating. Oh my God, I'll be here all night translating that in Punjabi. Then they'll say they want it in Hindi. I'll shut over it. Like forget that, mate. Like But that is that is crazy. That's what I'm going to say to you, right? But I just think counselling altogether is very important. If we are in help and we need help, we should not be ashamed of that.
Yeah.
We should never be ashamed. If I don't know anything, if I don't know anything about counselling, I'm going to ask her. She's going to guide me. मक्की दी रोटी मैंने खानी बहुत स्वाद लगती हाँ मैं बनानी नहीं आती शॉप वाली वही चीज़ तो ना होनी है जी माँ दी पक्की रोटी होनी है. So what I'm trying to say is when you're buying food from a restaurant and you're buying food from where your mum's cooked it for you, it's never going to be the same.
No.
Because home cooked food is, you can't compare it.
You can't compare it.
Right? And asking for help, there's no shame. And this is, doing property shows is okay. Me sitting here and coming here on all these other channels and radio stations and coming on here is to give you some advice, is to help you, is to see, are you in the benefit of, are you in the process of buying a house? Are you ready for it? Do you need help? Not only just for the house, for your life's sake. Are you mentally okay to do what you're doing. And if you feel like you're not, you're not there, get help. Help is always that, going down the wrong route is not an option. Killing yourself is not an option. Harming yourself is not an option. You must never do that whatsoever. But there's people like her will help you, will guide you, and she can always guide you in the right way. She can always support you in the right way. So property is just one thing, because this counseling is to do with all subjects, not just one subject. You might, like she said, before you're getting married, you may need counseling. It's best to just have counseling. Are you getting married for the right reasons? Right?
Absolutely.
Why are you getting married? Is it because of mum and dad's pressure? Is it because your friends are asking you to get married? What are you getting married for? क्यों तुसी ब्याह कर रहे हैं? किस चीज़ ले ब्याह कर रहे हैं? Because और ब्याह ना चले, थोड़े पैसे भी गए, थोड़ा खर्चा तो जाना ही जाना है. जे लोकां दे विच तुहानूं पता ही है, जेह्ड़े अपने बंदे हैं ना, एक चीज़ नूं 100 चीज़ां बना दिंदे, फिर वो भी घे पा के दब दब के, पता ना लगे हाँ बेइज्जती होवे लोकां दी. So she is here to help. And hopefully, Sensi, we've been discussing, we're going to be doing a lot of group topics.
Yes.
Group sessions. Group sessions, we're going to be broadcasting them live in our studios. We're going to be able to give some kind of education to the people that want to come along, and we can let you know some of dates. If you want to contact Kanshi management, तुसी management ना तुसी contact करके सारी advice आने तुसी पूछनी होवे, you can ask. But harming yourself is not an option, right?
Absolutely not an
And
option.
if they feel that way, what should they be doing?
I mean, if it's an extreme in
Yes.
terms of very life-threatening, then you definitely need to call the crisis team if you're in the UK.
Which team?
The crisis team.
Okay.
That's if you're in the UK. That's an emergency contact number that you can call.
Okay.
You can Google it and you can find it. It's just the crisis team, and someone will be on the other end of the phone.
Is that like if you're feeling suicidal, right?
Yes.
So if you feel like तुसी अपनी जान लेनी चाहते हैं, या तुसी अपनी, you're not happy and you're very depressed, you can contact the crisis team, right?
Yes.
Crisis team ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੂਗਲ ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਹੁਣ ਹਰੇਕ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਬੀਬੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰੇ ਪੁੱਤ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਫੋਨ ਚਲਾਉਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਫੋਨ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਚਲਾਵਾਂ ਟਰਸਟ ਮੀ ਜਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ 10 ਵਾਰੀ ਦਿਹਾੜੀ 'ਚ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਜਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੈਂਕਿੰਗ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਕੋਈ ਪੈਸਾ ਹਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ 2000 ਆਇਆ ਅੱਜ ਉਹਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਝੱਟੇ ਪਤਾ ਕਰ ਲੈਣੇ ਆ. But you can't go on to Google and find out what crisis is. So ਇਹ ਰਿਐਲਿਟੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਰਿਐਲਿਟੀ ਮੈਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਦੇਖੋ ਸਿੱਧਾ ਹੀ ਆਦਮੀ ਸਿੱਧੀਆਂ ਹੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਰਿਐਲਿਟੀ ਲਈ ਆ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਾਨੀਕਾਰਕ ਲਈ we don't want you to do anything to self-harm yourself. We've got a couple of minutes before the end. The show ends. I'm very direct with people. When I do my shows, you get some people that ring in, they will ask silly questions. But I think never things are silly questions. But the reality is that's the reality of people. But what else would you like to say? You've got literally a minute and a half. What else would you like to say to us?
I would say
watchers, you people who are watching out there.
Yeah. So if you are interested in counselling, then to contact the studios and you can get in contact with me. If you would like me to personally give you counselling, I would recommend myself because I am an award-winning counsellor and I'm also known as Leicester's best marriage counsellor.
Wow.
So if you ever need support in that area, then I'm also willing to support you there. But, you know, every day take care of yourself, because if you don't have your mental health, you literally don't have anything.
Absolutely.
Whether you want to buy property or start a family or whatever it is you want to do in life, if your mindset is not right, you're not going to achieve it.
Absolutely.
Anyway. And if you do achieve it, you're not going to enjoy it.
And at the same time, guys, this show will be put onto YouTube, onto TikTok. You can go to Pav Saudi, you can go onto Pavan Saudi. You'll be able to go onto YouTube. You can just search it on. You can watch it on there. And this will help us. Hopefully, we'll be bringing, you know, some group sessions to the station, to the channel. Next week's show is going to be on property. So जिन्ने भी तुसी मैंने क्वेश्चन पूछने आ दिल रज के पूछियो, पर आज दा जेड़ा शो हैगा ਤੁਹਾਡਾ बहुत thank you ਤੁਹਾਡਾ man. Hopefully she's been able to help you, because she's opened me up for a start. A lot of questions I didn't know about, geez, right? So, and she's right, you know, this is for us, and hopefully we look forward to having you again.
Of course.
Hopefully we'll be doing a group session next.
We can do anything that needs doing. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for the bath. I'm so hungry. Are you hungry?
Yeah, we're going to go eat.
I'm going to eat now. Next week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week's show. Thank you again. And we'll see you next week. God bless.
Take care.
That's it.
That was good.